What innocent question that someone asked you crushed you a little? Specialist appointment and they did the normal thing of checking contact details. They asked if the contact number and details for my wife were still correct. I started crying. My wife passed away this time 12 months ago. Surprising how much one simple question asked in total innocence can bring you to your knees. Sorry about your wife. Hope you're doing okay. My brother recently went through this at the ER. Checking info from a past visit, they asked if my dad was still the emergency contact. He died less than a month prior. It was like getting punched in the chest. Just happened recently actually. A few years ago I had a pretty awesome life. I was married. My husband and I were trying to have kids, and when I needed a car we just got me and Sav in anticipation for needing it for kids. He had to and we planned to have to -3. Well, things didn't work out and he ended up dying from drinking himself to death in January, and between that and 2 miscarriages, an ectopic and an IVF cycle that failed, I'm slowly coming to the realization that I'll never be a mother. It's painful to say the least. The kid I nanny for was sitting in my car and we were discussing his day when he says, "Nanny, why do you have such a big car when it's only you?" I wanted to cry right there on the spot. It just really stung. But instead I told him it was because I knew I would be watching him and I needed a car big enough for him, which seemed to placate him, and he then started discussing Batman with me. Table for how many? The first time we went out for dinner after my dad completed suicide. That one hit like a truck. I lost my brother in 2007 and my father passed 2 years ago. I took my mom out for dinner one night and the host asked, "Just the two of you?" It took everything we had not to cry. I went to get a haircut for my fiance's funeral. It was Friday. He had died on Tuesday. My stylist, all bubbly, said, "It's been a while. The last time I saw you, you were just about to move in with your boyfriend. How's it going?" The words stuck and I kind of rasped it out. Honestly though, her reaction was so wonderful. She was behind me and just put her hands firmly on my shoulders and looked me in the eyes in the mirror. No shock, no stupid platitudes, just silent, genuine empathy. The rest of the haircut was pretty quiet, but she did everything so, lovingly, and didn't make a big deal out of it when I cried a little. That is a beautiful, touching story. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for saying that, friend. I had no friends in summer school and a girl asked me if I had any friends. Like straight up, "Do you have any friends?" Then became friends with me, but still. Did she have any friends? Yeah, she did, but I didn't. I literally didn't know what to say since I was so shocked that someone would ask that. She sounds like she recognized your loneliness and tried to reach out. That's a good person. I worked in retail when I was younger and people would always be like, "Oh, do you have any ideas for Father's Day? What did you get your dad?" My dad committed suicide when I was 16. They had no way of knowing that, but damn if it didn't hurt. Part of the Young with a Dead Parent Club problems. No one assumes that we've already lost a parent, so the casual questions can just punch you in the gut. My mom died after being very sick for a very short amount of time when I was 19, and there were a lot of older people in my life who genuinely didn't even consider someone my age losing a parent a possibility. Where do your parents live? Oh, my dad lives in California. And your mom? In a box in dad's room, which is why I specified dad instead of saying parents, and that's a hint you shouldn't have ignored. The worst one was a very well-meaning co-worker stopping to tell me that she heard my mom had cancer and asked how everything was going. 3 weeks after my mom died. And since I still hadn't gotten used to saying the word she died out loud, I choked up immediately and almost burst into tears at work, making a sweet lady who just wanted to offer me some support very uncomfortable. Several years later, saying that is just stating a fact, but back then having to actually say the words and acknowledge the truth of them was fucking torture. How's your brother doing? Haven't seen him in a little while. He passed away 2 years ago. That wasn't very fun. My 5-year-old cousin asked me where grandpa was when we were getting ready to head to his funeral. Everyone went silent and we just kind of stared at each other until my dad managed to distract her. It was brutal. Last week, My son's therapist asked me how I was holding up with everything that has been happening, and if I was remembering to take time to care for myself while I was working on helping my son. I imagine she was thinking I would just give her my usual, "Oh, I am plugging along," response. Instead, I broke down and started sobbing and word vomited how bad shit is and how hard a time I am having. And what a selfish piece of shit I feel like for having the audacity to feel so bad when my son is having such a hard time. Not my best moment. Edited to add, thank you everyone for the encouragement. It was really nice to read. For what it is worth, my son is doing much better. He feels safer, and he knows he has a strong group of adults behind him that love him, believe him, and are working hard to protect him. And I am working on getting myself a therapist as well. Thank you for the idea of online therapy, because that is something I had never considered but is probably a great solution for my time issues currently. We are going to be okay. I know that. Right now feels pretty hopeless, but I know we will get through this. I appreciate the encouragement. When are you due? I wasn't pregnant. Have since lost over 60 pounds though. I always wanted to study psychology in college but my overbearing mother wouldn't have that, so I studied chemistry. In my last semester I took an abnormal psychology class just for fun and I crushed it, ending with a 99% average. After the final, my professor took me outside the classroom and said, "Why didn't you major in psychology? You would have made a great psychologist." That really crushed my soul. I think about that day a lot. I teach first grade and was talking about how I've been married for 5 years. One student asked, "How could you not have a baby by now?" Not wanting to explain multiple miscarriages and IVF to a classroom of 6-year-olds, I said, "Being around all of you makes my heart so full that I don't think I have room in my heart for a baby." They all smiled. I smiled too. I've learned from my experience to never ask couples when if they want to have a family. Freaking hurts. And it can go the other way too. We had been struggling to have kids until we finally saw a fertility specialist who immediately diagnosed the root cause and prescribed medication that helped. Same as you, we didn't feel this was a topic we really needed to mention to anybody though. All the while, my wife's older sister had been telling everybody that she had no interest in having kids of her own. We took this at face value initially, but then on a whim we decided to tell her my wife's medical history, as these things often run in the family. And who would have thunk? 2 months later, my sister-in-law was pregnant too. She'd just been too shy to tell anybody about the real reason she didn't have kids. Sometimes, communication is a good thing. And all the best of luck to you. Elementary school teachers do an amazing job. Thank you so much. A friend looked at me and said, "I know we've talked about it before, but how did you break your nose?" I've never broken my nose, this is just how it looks. Whoa. Owen Wilson. Someone jokingly asked me if I was high because my eyes were red. I had just been diagnosed with an eye disease and told I would go blind before 50. My eyes were red from my medicated eye drops and partially from crying. I was only 16 and having a hard time coming to terms with it. I saw a thing about a little girl who asked a World War II veteran if they'd do it again and he replied, "I'd do it again, just for you." I almost cried. How do I ask out? Guy name that isn't me. No idea, you should ask me out instead. If I had the balls to do that I would. Non-verbal, but the nurse at the flow shot station seemed unsure whether to give me the under 65 or over 65 consent form. If I'm going to be mistaken for being that much older than my actual age, at least it should be in the context of me getting a senior discount. Why don't you ever go out? Well, because I don't have anyone to go out with. Damn. Same. All of my friends are married, so being the single Pringle makes it hard to hang out with any of them anymore. My best friend flat out told me it's hard to include me in things because I'm always the odd one out. I already knew that, but damn, it hurt to actually hear it. I take my dogs out on walks. That's the extent of going out for me. Otherwise I'm a total hermit. I grew up lower middle class and my parents had been severely injured by a drunk driver at the end of my 8th grade year and were disabled and no longer able to work. We basically had no money for school clothes, but my mother tried to get me a few cool shirts. I wasn't a popular kid and most people didn't really know much about me. In my freshman year of high school, one of the popular girls in my class asked, "Don't you have more than 3 shirts? I only ever see you in the same 3 shirts." High school in the 80s in the United States sucked. If you want more of the best Reddit videos from this side of the universe, please subscribe.